Emily used to laugh with her whole body. That was the first thing I noticed about her when we met, how unguarded, how present she was. Now, her laughter sounded practiced, like something she'd learned to imitate. We'd been together for 4 years. Shared an apartment filled with houseplants she always forgot to water and furniture we couldn't afford but bought anyway. We had routines: Friday night takeout, Sunday morning bagels, and a kiss goodbye every weekday at 8:17 a.m. sharp. Nothing was ever perfect, but it was ours. Lately, though, something felt off. She started turning her phone over when she put it down. Conversations ended mid-sentence when I walked into the room. Our quiet moments became hollow, like placeholders for things neither of us wanted to say. Still, I chalked it up to stress. She'd recently gotten a promotion, a demanding new title with longer hours and late meetings. I told myself the distance was circumstantial. Temporary. But denial has a way of masking cracks until they suddenly split wide open. It was a Thursday when everything shifted. We were in the kitchen, the sun bleeding soft orange through the window blinds. Emily was buttering toast absent-mindedly, scrolling through her phone with the other hand. Her hair was tied in a messy knot, and she looked tired, like she hadn't really slept in days. "You working late again tonight?" I asked casually, pouring coffee into our chipped ceramic mugs. She hesitated. "No, actually. I have plans." I raised an eyebrow. "Plans?" She glanced up briefly, then back at the counter. "Just grabbing dinner with a friend." "You don't know him, her." The slip was so slight, I almost missed it. Almost. A beat of silence passed between us. I forced a small smile. "Good luck on your date." It was meant as a joke, half-hearted, half-serious, tossed out like a stone skipping across the surface of something much deeper, but her face told me everything. She froze. Eyes wide. Toast forgotten mid-spread. Her hand trembled slightly, and her mouth opened, then closed again like she couldn't decide which lie to use. It was the look people get when they realize they've been caught, even if no one said the words out loud. A flicker of guilt, panic, and regret, all colliding behind her eyes in real time. She finally forced a laugh. "Don't be ridiculous." But her voice cracked at the edge, and I noticed she wouldn't meet my gaze. I didn't press. Just nodded and walked away, leaving my untouched coffee on the counter, because in that single moment, I knew something had shifted permanently. The question wasn't if something was going on, it was how long it had been going on, and what I was going to do about it. After that morning in the kitchen, something in me wouldn't sit still. The silence between Emily and me grew louder, like an alarm I couldn't turn off. She went on her dinner that night, claiming it was just a catch-up with an old friend. I didn't ask questions, I just watched. She left in a rush, dressed nicer than usual, her phone clutched like it held oxygen. No goodbye kiss. Just a mumbled "see you later," and the door closing too softly behind her. I sat in the living room, the TV on mute, my thoughts crawling in circles. I wasn't sure what I was looking for: proof, maybe. Or just permission to believe what I already suspected. The first breadcrumb came that weekend. At a small get-together with our mutual friends, someone asked if Emily had enjoyed that new Italian place downtown. I hadn't even heard of it. "Wait, when did you guys go there?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. The friend blinked. "Oh, I thought she said she went with you last week." "My bad." I smiled and nodded, but my stomach twisted. Emily had told me she was working late that night. Back home, I began noticing patterns. Her phone battery always seemed to die around 7 p.m., but her social media showed activity hours later. The passcode on her phone had changed. Her perfume lingered stronger, newer, and unfamiliar. These weren't coincidences. They were signals. Still, I hadn't confronted her. I wasn't ready, not without clarity. I needed more than a hunch. One night, I opened my laptop and scrolled through our shared cloud account. We'd never bothered to turn off autosync. There were no pictures of him, at least none that said anything outright. But one caught my eye: Emily at a rooftop bar, wine glass in hand, city lights behind her. Taken the same night she said she was visiting her sister. She looked happy. Relaxed. Lit up from the inside in a way I hadn't seen in months. That's when I stopped making excuses. The following day, I mentioned the photo casually. She blinked twice, then said, "Oh, that? Yeah, we all went out after work. I thought I told you." But she hadn't. And we both knew it. The lie didn't hurt as much as the ease with which it came. That was new. That was frightening. I began keeping notes, not to build a case, but to keep my sanity. Places she said she'd be. People she mentioned. Stories she repeated. Each inconsistency added another fracture in the trust one used to lean on. By the end of the week, one thing had become crystal clear. I was no longer paranoid. I was aware the woman I thought I knew was slipping through my fingers, and if I didn't face the truth soon, I'd lose more than just the relationship. I'd lose myself. I didn't plan the confrontation like some dramatic movie climax. There was no shouting in the rain, no hastily packed suitcases. Just dinner reservations at her favorite restaurant and a reservation in my chest to finally breathe again, one way or another. I arrived early. She was 10 minutes late. Emily smiled as she slid into the seat across from me, slightly out of breath, cheeks flushed. She looked like herself again, confident, glowing. But now, I understood that glow had a source I wasn't part of. We ordered wine. Talked about trivial things, her boss, my week, the couple arguing at the next table. For a moment, I almost convinced myself this could be salvaged. Then, I leaned forward. "When I said, 'Good luck on your date' last week," I said slowly, watching her expression tighten, "your face said everything." Her fork paused midair. Her eyes locked on mine. And just like that morning in the kitchen, there it was again, that flicker of panic, like a bird flying straight into a window. She set the fork down. "What are you saying?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I simply asked, "Who is he?" Emily looked down at her napkin as though it held the answer. Her silence was a confession. Then, she whispered, "It wasn't supposed to happen." That sentence landed with finality. A quiet implosion. She told me his name, Colin. A coworker. It started as late-night conversations over deadlines and devolved into something more. She swore it wasn't physical at first. That it was emotional, like that word somehow made the betrayal gentler. "I didn't plan it," she said. "I just felt seen. And I was scared to tell you because, you're safe." Safe. I almost laughed. As if being loyal, steady, and present were somehow the flaw in this equation. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just listened. And with each word, I felt a quiet unraveling. Not of anger, but of finality. "You could have told me when it started," I said. "We could have tried. Talked. Anything but this." Her voice cracked. "I didn't want to lose you." "But you did," I replied softly. Silence followed, dense and unavoidable. The kind of silence that marks the end of something that once mattered. When the check came, I paid it. Not out of obligation, but as a closing gesture, like placing the final stone on a grave. We didn't walk out hand in hand. We didn't promise to talk later. We simply parted, like two strangers who'd once shared something sacred but had now run out of reasons to keep pretending. And as I stepped into the night air, I realized I wasn't heartbroken, I was free. In the days that followed, I moved through the apartment like a guest in someone else's life. Her mug still sat in the sink. Her sweater still hung on the back of the chair. But the warmth was gone. Only echoes remained. Emily stayed with a friend. She left a note on the kitchen table, short, apologetic, carefully written, like she had revised every sentence before setting it down. I didn't read it twice. I started sleeping on the couch, not because I had to, but because the bed felt like a lie. Every pillow, every dent in the mattress whispered memories I no longer trusted. Healing wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Unassuming. Like teaching yourself how to breathe again after holding it too long. I took long walks. No destination, just movement. I deleted old photos. Unfollowed her on social media. Unsubscribed from the version of life I thought we'd been building. I spent more time with myself than I ever had. Therapy helped. So did silence. 3 weeks passed before I heard from her again. A message. Simple. I'm sorry. Truly. I hope you're okay. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't feel anger anymore. Just a soft detachment, like watching the final scene of a movie you already know by heart. I typed back, I'm okay. I hope you are too. That was it. Closure doesn't always come with a conversation. Sometimes, it's the absence of one. It's the realization that not all stories need a sequel. Some just need an ending that honors the truth. I didn't hate her. I just no longer loved the version of her who betrayed the life we'd promised each other. And maybe that's the hardest part, letting go of someone who, once upon a time, felt like home. Months passed. The apartment felt lighter. I repainted the living room, changed the curtains. Small things, really, but they mattered. They made the space mine again. One afternoon, I found myself in the park, sitting on a bench, coffee in hand, watching people pass by, some holding hands, some alone, some lost in their own heads like I had been. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel broken. I felt, still, sometimes, heartbreak doesn't shatter you. It unmasks you. It shows you what you've been ignoring. Who you've become. What you need to find your way back. As I stood up and walked away, a quiet thought settled into my chest like a promise. The person who walks away isn't always the one who gives up. Sometimes, they're the one who finally remembers their worth.